Coming up, a down-and-out songwriter and a down-and-out singer, they came together to collaborate on a song that nobody wanted. The writer, he was living in his brother's shadow. His brother is one of the most famous songwriters ever. And the singer, he was well-traveled, had a few minor hits, but was looking for the big one to set his career in stone. Even though these guys had no juice in the record business, they landed a pitiful recording budget. They went to Nashville and they created a million-selling single beloved by generation after generation. We get lost in the rock and roll with one of the biggest sing-along classics of the 70s, coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember those scary TV movies of the week, range from nuclear holocaust to murder, you're gonna dig this channel of deep, meaningful nostalgia. We do it every day. Get in the time machine. Make sure that you subscribe below right now. Click the bell so you always know what's coming. New interviews, new videos, story and music straight from the legends. You'll dig what we're putting down here, I think. Also, check out our Patreon where we have full interviews, and check out our merch below. I'm wearing my Rush 40 jersey. I got this as a gift from a friend. Pretty cool. So Mentor Williams loved to write songs. It's what he felt he was born to do. But the music industry didn't want Mentor's songs, and they repeatedly snubbed him. He was living in the shadow of his famous brother. His brother was lyricist Paul Williams, who had written hit songs for artists like Three Dog Night, Helen Reddy, the Carpenters, and perhaps the greatest vocalist of the rock era, Kermit the Frog.
They will find it, the rainbow connection.
Just kidding. Eventually, Mentor caught a little break, though. This is when Herb Alpert from A&M Records gave him a publishing deal in 1970. It was a modest deal, but it was enough to revive his faith in his dream of striking gold as a songwriter. Now, the following day was a Saturday, and Mentor awakened with excitement for the future that awaited him. He was in such a great mood, he decided to go fishing, a pastime that he truly enjoyed, but he rarely had the opportunity to do. So he was out on the lake, and he started to reflect on all the hardship that he had faced, trying to make it as a songwriter in the business. And then a feeling of peace came over him, and the lyrics to the all-time 70s classic, Drift Away, began to flow within his rejuvenated soul.
I'm gonna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away.
In that moment, he discovered the secret of how he was going to make it as a songwriter. The secret was to stop trying to emulate other writers and just trust his inner emotions, trust himself. It was time for Mentor to get rid of the frustration from years of rejection, step out of his brother's shadow, as it were, and celebrate his newfound joy and inspiration.
Thanks for the joy that you've given me.
Now, Mentor finished Drift Away, convinced that he'd finally written that hit song that it couldn't be denied. But when he started to present it to potential artists, record it, that old familiar disappointment returned when there was very little interest in this song. Now, there were two exceptions. The first was a swamp rocker named John Henry Kurtz. He cut Drift Away for his reunion LP in 1972. Kurtz's record had a very interesting footnote. The record included performances by some highly respected musicians. There was Jim Gordon and Larry Knechtel from Bread. There was Jeff Skunk Baxter from Steely Dan, and also Doobie Brothers fame, and Kenny Loggins, who lent John Henry his beloved Danny song as one of the tracks for the reunion album.
Ain't got money, I'm so in love with you, honey.
In spite of the top-notch musicianship here, the reunion album, it flopped, along with the release of Drift Away as its lone single. That was essentially the end of the line for John Henry Kurtz as a national recording artist. When his musical career floundered, Kurtz segued to acting and voiceover work for radio and TV commercials. He was also recognized as one of the foremost collectors of Civil War artifacts, actually. There are some music historians that insist the first artist to record Drift Away was actually country rock singer Mike Berry. It was the title of his album that came out in September of '72. Barry's Fuzzbox guitar version of Drift Away was definitely recorded within a few months of John Henry Kurtz, but the distribution for his interpretation of the track was limited to the UK, and it too failed to find any kind of audience. Ironically, Barry also boasted some notable musicians on his record. He had Bee Gees' Morris Gibb, and he played with Deep Purple's vaunted Axeman Richie Blackmore. So there's that. The futility of the first two attempts at making Drift Away a hit song, this did not diminish Mentor Williams' belief in his composition. He just felt he needed the right voice to express the song that he had imagined, the exact way he imagined it.
I'm counting on you to carry me through.
So let's go back to the early 60s, to the garment district of downtown Los Angeles, where a young aspiring singer named Lawrence Brown, who was from Simonton, Texas, worked as a presser. He operated equipment that removed wrinkles from clothing. So Lawrence moved from Texas to LA to pursue acting, but he was also an amazing yet-to-be-discovered singer. So one afternoon, he was at work, and Lawrence heard a commercial over the radio soliciting for singers. As Lawrence remembered it, the spot went something like this. It said, "If you can sing like Little Richard or Sam Cooke, we want to meet you. Call us at this number." And then they gave the number. So Lawrence called the number, set up a meeting with a music promoter named Sonny Bono. Yes, that's Sonny Bono. So Sonny asked Lawrence to sing a song so he could hear if he had, what they were searching for. For his audition, Lawrence chose to sing the Righteous Brothers classic Unchained Melody. Not an easy song to sing.
Oh, my love.
Sonny was mightily impressed with this performance, and he directed Lawrence to the small independent label Stripe Records. Sonny and the folks at Stripe suggested that Lawrence change his name to Dobie Gray, of all things, to latch onto the popularity of the TV sitcom The Many Lives of Dobie Gillis.
Is she dark? Is she small? Is she any kind of dreamboat at all?
Lawrence Brown became Dobie Gray, and he scored a national hit with the single The In Crowd. That actually went to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 11 on the Billboard R&B chart in 1965.
I'm with the in crowd, and I know what
The In Crowd was succeeded by See It the Go-Go, a single with the LA's hottest in-demand session musicians like Carol Kay and Hal Blaine and the aforementioned Larry Knechtel. See It the Go-Go, it fizzled. It went to number 69, and 3 years later, Dobie took a stab at Joe South's tune Rose Garden, but that radio didn't touch it at all.
I never promised you a rose garden.
I mean, the In Crowd did go to number 13, but it wasn't going to be the song that was going to put him on the map. So as we continue to break down this song, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. Summer is here. It's the perfect time to up your game with a brand new pair of glasses, or two or three. Zenni, as I've told you before, they have incredible variety. You design your glasses to your liking. You pick the color, the shape, the style, whatever. And you can get your frame starting at just $6.95. Means you can buy 3 or 4 different pair for what you'd pay for just one. Just click on the info button right up here and get our special POR deal.
Oh, give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost.
Okay, so going back to the song Rose Garden, which was Dobie Gray's next song to come out, country singer Lynn Anderson seemed to have the golden touch for Rose Garden. Her version was released a few years later, and it became one of the biggest country songs in 1972, and it actually crossed over to the pop charts and went to the top 20. Anderson's Rose Garden was a giant number 1 on the country charts, and she won a Grammy for Best Country Female Vocal Performance of the Year. And then Joe South garnered awards for Best Country Song and Song of the Year.
I never promised you a rose garden.
Drift Away, it was doing just as the song was saying. It was drifting, waiting for something to happen, anything. Meanwhile, Mentor Williams was still hopeful that he would find the magic for this song. He knew it was something. To make a little bit of bread, he played in a club band called Georgia Overdrive. So one night, Mentor's band was playing on the same bill with the group Pollution, that features singer-percussionist Dobie Gray. Some people in the audience, they'd heard the In Crowd, but they likely couldn't tell you who sang it. Pollution was managed by Max Baer Jr., best known for playing the character Jethro Bodine on the 60 comedy series The Beverly Hillbillies.
Howdy.
Well, howdy to you. You're Jethro, aren't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Max had done some business with Mentor's brother Paul Williams, so it was easy to connect him with Dobie. When Mentor heard Dobie sing, he had a vision that he had found the voice that he had always needed to make Drift Away a massive hit. Mentor, he loved Dobie's voice. He thought it sounded a lot like Sam Cooke, just like the radio advertisement that Dobie answered years earlier, that led him to his first recording deal at Set. Dobie instantly fell in love with Drift Away. When Mentor gave him the lyric sheet, the two recorded a demo with Dobie putting his heart and soul into this vocal. Finally, they were where they needed to be. After months of shopping the demo with labels in LA, they finally did land a deal with Decca Records, who gave him a very small budget to, record the song properly. They may not have had much money, but the Nashville sessions to lay down Drift Away, they were a life-changing experience for Mentor and Dobie. The inspiration and passion to create something really special, it seemed to drive everyone in the studio to make this the best song it could be. This all began with an introspective melodic chord structure that was conceived by session guitarist Reggie Young Jr. Then another session player, Troy Seals, he came up with the scintillating Telecaster riff on the chorus and in the coda. Mike Leach, who played on Elvis's Suspicious Minds and Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline.
Sweet Caroline, with suspicious minds.
He kept the sweet melodic rhythm flowing on the bass guitar. And then came Dobie Gray's heartfelt vocal that really honored the honesty of Mentor's lyrics with such purity and conviction and compassion. Dobie was coming from the same place in his career that Mentor was. He was grateful for another chance at artistic greatness. And his performance, as anyone can tell listening to this song, it reflected his joy in an invigorating climax. Now, Decca had low expectations for Drift Away. The recording turned out beautifully, but the label was convinced the song ran far too long to get a shot on AM radio, which was the thing back then. The conventional wisdom was for a single to never exceed that 3-minute length. Drift Away clocked in at just under 4 minutes, 3 minutes and 57 seconds. Dobie Gray was the savior for Mentor Williams' Drift Away. As soon as the 45 hit the airwaves, the request lines lit up. Drift Away was indeed a runaway smash from there. Drift Away has sailed to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and finished as the 11th biggest single in 1973. It should have been number 1. When Dobie Gray scored with Drift Away, it seemed everybody wanted to cut Mentor Williams' uplifting sensation. The song, as it was coming down the pop chart, singer Narvel Feltz put out a rendition that reached the top 10 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles Chart in '73. Now, he changed the lyric in the chorus from "I want to get lost in your rock and roll" to "I want to get lost in your country song."
I wanna get lost in your country song and drift away.
Also, the genius Ray Charles, he also caught up in the rock and roll in 1973 as well. The Rolling Stones recorded an unreleased version of Drift Away. It didn't make the cut for their It's Only Rock and Roll LP in '74. Michael Bolton drifted away in '92. Now, in 2002, Drift Away had a historic return to the top 10 with Dobie Gray as a duet with Kid Rock protege Uncle Kracker. It was from the album No Stranger to Shame.
Won't you take me away?
When the Uncle Kracker Dobie Gray version reached number 9 in 2003, it actually broke the record for the longest gap between a song's position in the top 10, a gap of 30 years. That record was broken by the immortal crooner Andy Williams' holiday classic, It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, placed in the top 10 in 1971, and then it reappeared in 2018, a gap of more than 47 years. But that's a Christmas song.
The most wonderful time of the year.
The collaboration of Drift Away also established another record for being on the Billboard Adult Contemporary chart for 28 consecutive weeks.
When my mind is free, you know a melody.
Drift Away, it was featured in the 1988 movie Heartbreak Hotel starring David Keith as Elvis. It was also in Wonderland in 2003, the sports biopic Invincible in 2006.
Ain't it a shame? Oh, give me the beat, boy, and free my...
And Ed Helms was hilarious playing the corrector Andy Bernard, doing a little carpool karaoke to Drift Away in one of the episodes of The Office. Mentor Williams continued to write songs, primarily for a variety of country artists, as Randy Travis and Waylon Jennings and Eddie Raven, among others. After Drift Away, his biggest success was a collaboration with Troy Sills. The pair teamed up to write When We Make Love. That was a #1 country hit in America and Canada for the supergroup Alabama.
When we make love.
Sadly, Mentor passed away from lung cancer in 2016. So Dobie Gray's follow-up to the exultant success of Drift Away was Love in Arms, a tune penned by Tom Jans, initially recorded by Chris Christopherson and Rita Coolidge, who I believe were married at the time. Unfortunately, Love in Arms fell flat on the Billboard Hot 100. It only went to number 61 and 74.
Lying in your loving arms again.
So for the next 5 years, Dobie Gray was hitless. Till his single, You Can Do It, cracked the top 40 on the Billboard Hot 100 at number 37 and number 32 on the R&B chart in 79. Dobie sang on TV and radio jingles in the early 80s, and then he re-emerged as a musical artist in the mid-80s in the country music world. He had a couple of mid-charters in 86, The Dark Side of Town and That's One to Grow On, reached number 32 on the Billboard Country chart.
That's one to grow on. Ain't no reason.
In 88, Dobie performed the lead vocal in the song Paradise Row, which was used in the movie Blind Justice.
To paradise days, it'll change.
Dobie Gray also sadly passed away from cancer in 2011. In his will, he generously bequeathed all of his music royalties to the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital and the Tennessee School for the Blind. Yeah, I love this song so much. It reminds me of my dad. You know, whenever this song came on, he'd turn it up full blast. We'd sing it to the top of our lungs every time. It's brought so much joy. And whenever I hear it now, I'm transported to my dad's old pickup and I feel the joy, that rapturous power of rock and roll. I miss my dad every day, but this song, it brings him back to life for a few minutes. It's a magical song in that way. So Mentor and Dobie, I'm transmitting this message to you in rock and roll heaven. I'm going to get a little cheesy here. Thank you for the joy that you've given us. We want you to know we too all believe in your signature song. It's like the song says, day after day we get more confused and sometimes we don't understand the things we do. But when we feel the strain, we can always get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about Dobie Gray and this 70s masterwork. I mean, this is such a great feel-good song. One of the greatest sing-alongs ever. What do you think? Is it? What are your memories of the song? Share below. Again, I just think of me and my dad singing this, and it takes me back to those memories. I love how music can do that. Let us know in the comments below. Let's have a great discussion. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We would love to have you as part of this community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.